Mere conservatism.
All right.
So we got to sing all 12 days. You ready?
You talking about the 12 days of Christmas?
Yeah, because here
No,
we're recording this on the 12th day.
Yeah, but we're not going to do that. Look, number one, I can never remember them all. And number two, we got a lot to talk about.
Well, we could debate about what day is which gift. All I know is that today is 12 drummers drumming. And what I don't like about this is that drummers drumming is my favorite one.
Okay.
But you have to wait all the way to 12 to get there, and you only say it one time because then you count down and you're done.
Okay.
And that's sad for the drummers.
All right. That's David Perry. I'm Cleve Walker. And this is Mere Conservatism. I was telling David off mic before we started the podcast that this is one of the few times, and I've seen you come in and be kind of mad about things, okay? Uh-huh. This is one of the times I'm having trouble restraining my anger.
You mad, bro?
I'm mad.
What's going on, man?
It's over something stupid, but it's so stupid that it is. Well, I'll tell you what it is.
Let's just
it's the whole thing that
like two turtle doves.
When you get off the Christmas kick,
have a nice chat.
All right. No, seriously. This January 6th thing, I knew it was going to be bad, and I made the mistake of watching some of it. For example, I watched a little bit of Vice President Harris bemoan what happened on the 6th. She already compared it to 9/11, and she was trying to get this really serious, grave tone going on here, you know. Mm-hmm. And she said, I wasn't there at the time, but my colleagues were there, and my staff was still there, and my heart was... Anyway... I said, why am I watching this? David, I'm mad. Number one, because it was not an insurrection. Okay, again, we talked about this. That was not an insurrection. It was not close to an insurrection. And yet, they're just playing this thing. What's your thought on it real quick?
Well, okay, I see that you're exasperated.
I am.
And I'm so sorry that this is happening to you. 1 year ago today, we're actually recording this on the 6th. So 1 year ago today, at the end of the day, my sister called me in tears.
Really?
Yeah. What do I tell my kids? They just moved here from Germany. They're Germans. My wife married a German man. All her kids are German nationals. They're American citizens too. But how do I explain this to my kids? What do I tell my kids? And I said, Ginger, I understand it's not good. It's bad. I calmed her down and I said,
good.
I said, this kind of thing happens. I said, it's not a good thing. It's a bad thing. And that's true, but it's not the kind of thing that you overblow, that it's not really even unprecedented.
Right. It's nowhere close to being unprecedented.
It's not even that big of a deal because everything that was supposed to happen happened. Now,
right.
If they went in there and they kidnapped the vice president and they kept him from actually counting the votes and stuff like that, that would be one thing.
Yeah.
But that's not what happened. Everything that was supposed to happen that day still happened. And it was a bad thing, people going in, trespassing, breaking in, being violent. Mm-hmm. But we're going to be fine. It's okay. And that's the thing I would like to communicate to anybody who's overly worried about January 6th. All the media, I believe most of them are overhyping it on purpose because it's a narrative thing.
Yeah.
However, there are probably some people that are truly disturbed by it because they're disturbed in general. They're just disturbed people.
I mean, yes.
And they want to make it something that was one of the darkest days in American history.
Civil War.
And it really just wasn't. It
Yeah.
really just wasn't.
Yeah.
It was a bad thing. It's so overwrought.
That's my point.
All this stuff.
I mean, they need something. When I say they, I'm talking about the Democrats. They need something because things have been going so bad for them polling-wise, thanks to this president, that they needed something to gin up that righteous indignation and that false patriotism that progressives only gin up doing something like this. I mean, This is the only time I hear them talking patriotic about the security of the nation is doing something like this. And they're far from.
Do you remember what happened in D.C. on Trump's inauguration day? I mean, you had people rioting and getting arrested.
Okay, yeah, that. All right.
That's just an example of that. It's not unusual, especially recently.
Okay.
for angry people to be in D.C. and rioting.
And that's okay.
And that doesn't mean it's good. I'm not saying that it's good and that it was okay. It's not.
Yeah.
But what I am saying is that when people go and they protest Donald Trump and they get arrested and they break things and places in D.C., they have to board up the windows and stuff like that because protesters are coming. That is righteous. That is good. That is people.
In their minds,
that is
yes.
the best part about democracy is people voicing their opinions and doing their thing. These protesters have a righteous cause.
In their
That's
minds.
in their minds.
Yeah.
But when people on the right, apparently, people on the right do it, it's evil. It's the worst thing that ever happened in our country.
Hitler.
It's obviously
Nazism, yeah.
It's obviously slanted, biased. It's obviously played up for political purposes. They really all they have is January 6th because Biden's policies are so unpopular because they're such failures. All of his policies. The only thing that they can do is say, keep us in power or the crazies will come and get you. The January 6th, right? The guy in the Viking hat will come and maybe he'll put his feet up on your desk too.
Yeah.
Is basically all they did. None of these people have been charged with insurrection.
Nobody. I was going to say.
None of them had weapons on them, apparently.
Right. Yeah.
From the reporting that I've seen. And so they broke in. They shouldn't have been there. They disrupted the process. It wasn't good, but it was over in a few hours, and everything is fine.
Well, here's the thing, and I'm glad he took their advice. President Trump was going to do a live response to this, but somebody said, don't do that. That's only going to give them more fodder. But he did release a statement that I thought was pretty good. Trump responded to Biden's sharp criticism, saying his Democratic successor is trying to distract from his record. Trump said Biden used my name today to try to further divide America. He said this is political theater. It's just a distraction for the fact that Biden has completely and totally failed. And he said our country, because of Biden, has no borders. It's totally and completely out of control. COVID numbers. It's no longer energy independent. Inflation is rampant. Our military is in chaos. Our exit, or I call it surrender, from Afghanistan, the most embarrassing day in a long, distinguished history of the United States, and so much more. So that was good. Mm-hmm. I'm glad they talked to him and not getting on and talking, but to release a statement, because that's what we got to do, to me. Mm-hmm. You just sum it up and put it in the context and go on. But right now, avoid the news coverage from any other network, because they're going to be just giving this stuff in glowing terms about how wonderful and dramatically powerful this moment was on January 6th with the Senate.
Well, and Trump wasn't perfect.
Oh, no. And that's nobody's saying that.
After the election, all the way through January 6th, he wasn't perfect. He didn't do everything right.
Right.
He probably should have done. He should have behaved differently. Mm-hmm. However, you're still overblowing what happened on January 6th.
Yeah.
If you're in the media or if you're a Democrat right now. And he's absolutely right in his statement. Yeah.
In Biden's statement, he basically said that Trump literally caused the insurrection. That's still using that term. He literally, and wanted to, that he basically it was guilty of being, as it were, a leader of an insurrection, even though ostensibly, they can't really time to it.
And first of all, the biggest problem with that is that it wasn't an insurrection. We can just start right there.
Yeah.
But there's, obviously so many problems with what he's saying. Trump said in his speech that day to go and be peaceful.
Right.
And let them know what we think. But he said that. So.
And nobody brought up the fact that Trump requested, was the guardsman or
right, he did.
They denied the request.
That's correct. Trump said, send in the guard. Mm-hmm. The mayor of D.C. said no. Because they were actually worried. I think that part of the issue on January 6th, and I don't know if this will ever come out. I don't know if this is true or we'll ever find out if this is true, because I don't think the people that are doing the hearings want to know this. But I think that part of the issue on January 6th was that there weren't enough police because they were afraid the police were on Donald Trump's side. Because look,
wow.
They spent all year.
Wow.
I know that's a little out there, right?
Yeah.
But look, these people spent all year bashing the police.
That's true.
And trying to defund the police. Mm-hmm. They spent all this time. And I think that's why they didn't have enough police because they didn't want to put police out there because they thought police were generally on the right. And that's why they didn't want to call in they didn't want Trump to call in the National Guard because they thought that meant Trump was. I think that they really thought Trump was trying to take something over. And if he calls in the National Guard, then that's what he wants because he wants to take over. I mean, they were so deluded that's what they thought was happening. It's
that's one of the first time I've heard it put quite that way. But you make a really strong point.
Well, and I don't know that that's true.
No,
it's just a hypothesis.
No documentary.
But what we do know is that they were underprepared for the mob,
right?
With law enforcement, and they also denied National Guard coming in. So we do know that.
I actually believe, though, and I'm more cynical than you, I think, and I've admitted this. I actually believe that powers that be, and that included, I believe, elements in our own government, wanted some kind of incident. And they felt that too much restraint there would lower the possibility of them getting what they got. I mean, they showed video to show that people were opening the doors and letting people in and, just standing aside. I'm talking about officials there.
Some very odd-looking video and stuff like that happening.
So my point
strange.
is they have wanted, again, they being the Democrats and progressives, have wanted to paint our side as the side of insurrection and white supremacy and violence, even though all summer, it was them. Yeah. So to me, they wanted something like this.
I agree, too, that there's I think there appears to be more going on than what we're being told.
And we'll never know.
And we'll probably never know. Yeah. We're just left to guess and conjecture. And so I wouldn't put my foot down on any of those assertions, but I do wonder some of these things. This is their playbook for 2022. Okay?
Right. They have nothing else.
We have an election this year.
Yeah.
They're running on, mark my words, they are running on January 6th all year.
Yes.
In fact, I think there was even an article that came out here recently. The headline was, "Every day is January 6th." This is literally their campaign.
They have nothing else.
They have to do this.
They have not. And Schumer has already tied January 6th to this voting bill they're trying to get passed, saying, using it to emphasize the importance of making sure that the next election is actually fair. Because if not, these folks, he said, they're going to do it again, or we're going to have another thing like this again. So, my goodness, you're right. This is all they have, David. But it's still, I'm so angry because, number one, that they're doing this, and number two, there are people who actually buy into it.
Well, there are, but I think that most people, Cleve, I think most people really see through this stuff. I think we're at a point right now that there are true believers, and then there's people that know that it's all just a farce, but they have their agenda, so they're going along with it. And then there's a lot of people that know that all of it is just theater. None of it's true. None of it really matters. And they're much more practical with how they look at the world and how they view things. And that is why I think unless they get this voting act through, this national takeover of elections, unless that happens, I think we're going to be okay.
And that's why we've got to keep watching what they're doing with that, because they're trying right now their best to get that filibuster rule changed.
And trying to pressure
the pressure. I mean, I can't imagine some of the stuff that's probably being put on him that we're not aware of, because if they can get that taken care of where they don't, with that procedure, they can literally pass this. Boy, it's going to be a mess. Well, future presidential candidate, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. I'm sorry, I just feel like he will be. Because the progressives need Trump. They need him to feed off on. That's one reason they're doing the January 6th thing. But Ron DeSantis, boy, I'll tell you, he recently ripped the hypocrisy of the so-called, he called them lockdown politicians, which includes New York's Representative AOC and California Representative Eric Swalwell, who's back in the news because they were both vacationing in Florida without their mask. I mean, it's like their constituents are locked down and, masked up and jabbed, and they're in Florida, of all places, partying hardy and enjoying freedom. And DeSantis just let them have it. I love that.
It is very hypocritical, obviously, for them to do that. Florida is a nice place to be this time of year.
Yeah.
It is, the weather's really good. Yeah. And, you're free there too.
You're free. That's my big point. In other words, you don't have
restaurants are open.
The things in New York and those places. So, but the point is, you're asking your constituents. You sit tight, okay? You stay there. You obey the protocols, or else I'm going to go party hardy in Florida, where it is free.
Death Santis is ruling Florida, and people are dying, and I'm going to go down there and go to Miami and sit on the beach. He's
eating their lunch, talking about DeSantis. He's literally, great. And something else he did recently, he was on Fox and Friends talking about Florida's efforts to fight the pandemic by announcing a move that will distribute the test to nursing homes and senior communities. Doesn't mean that everybody has to have a test, but vulnerable populations, he said, these are the ones you want to test.
Yeah.
And so he's going to distribute that. And another thing he's trying to do, but they're being stopped, they're trying to get that monoclonal antibodies supplied to their people, but now the Biden administration is holding it up. Mm-hmm. So real quickly, Ted Cruz has introduced legislation to remove any federal barrier to states purchasing the coronavirus treatments for themselves, because right now they can't do it. Right now, the federal government is the arbiter of the supplies, and they're saying we got to be sure that they're balanced and released in a fair way.
Equitable.
Meanwhile, people who could otherwise live to get these early treatments are not getting it.
Yeah.
Now, that's serious stuff to me, David.
DeSantis is doing a great job. And yes, of course, the federal government is messing it up because that's what they do. It's kind of their job.
Well, they don't want him to be successful either.
They don't want him to be successful. And they have this philosophy of equity, which is stupid in most cases. It's dumb. So you need the antibody treatments where there are cases and where people are most vulnerable. Florida is one of the oldest states in the country. It's important to test the elderly because that's when you can catch a case early.
That's
the
more risky population.
That's what you want to do. You don't want to be testing people who are asymptomatic. Yeah. And the COVID rules and guidelines and all that stuff are dumb. Mm-hmm. They've never been good. And the CDC,
they're not scientific either.
The CDC is terrible. They're not scientific. Yeah. Ron DeSantis has done a really, really good job in Florida handling it. I will say what people, I feel like, don't think about when the CDC does something like, for instance, they change the guidelines from 10 days to 5 days. If you have COVID but you don't have symptoms, you don't have to isolate for 10 days anymore. You only have to isolate for 5 days. And what I think a lot of people don't spend time really thinking about what that means all the time. If you think about it, what it means is that they were wrong before because nothing has changed. That we have variants now that are more infectious, not less infectious.
Right.
Nothing has changed, so that means that they were wrong before, or there's some other factor coming into their decision other than just keeping people from getting sick.
And the factor is they were getting hit again as far as the polls were concerned.
It's political.
Yes.
And that's the key. It always was.
Yeah.
This was never one of those things where, this is how you beat it. You stay away from people for 10 days and blah, 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 and all this stuff. No, it's all out of their rear end.
Yeah.
They're just 6 feet away from people. It's bunk.
I'm going to make a statement here because a lot of people think our side was always anti-CDC, anti-all that FDA. I hadn't been. I used to trust the CDC. I did. I thought they were a reputable, trustworthy, at least as far as any kind of agency goes. I didn't start realizing that these people were totally politically being controlled until you saw this waffling on everything.
Waffling on everything. You see them. You can clearly see them influenced by teachers' unions with their guidelines.
Exactly.
They are a joke. Nobody should care anything about what the CDC
So therefore,
says.
when we get their guidance and their other statements, I can't accept it. You've already lost my confidence, and not just mine. And so when people don't trust you, and people like Fauci, for example, who's waffled all over the place, then I told a friend of mine the other day, said, Cleveland, you're a Christian. Don't you have faith that you can take this vaccine and boosters? Do you not have any faith? And I told them, I have plenty of faith. I just don't have it in the CDC. or the FDA. Okay. If I believed them, if I thought they were truly following the science, I probably would we take back a lot of stuff. But I'm saying I don't have faith in them.
Yeah.
And their word means nothing to me.
And it's not your fault, Cleve, that you don't have faith in them. It's their fault. They have proven themselves to be completely unreliable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I trust Ron DeSantis when it comes to COVID policy. I would totally trust whatever he has to say on the subject because he has been measured and he has been right.
Well, and that's the point. But even if you don't like the way he states his policy or what those are, the results, the proof is in the pudding. Florida's situation as far as the pandemic and as far as their economy and everything else is heads and shoulders above any others.
Well, when you factor in the age of the state,
right.
the fact that
they have
so
many
old people, yes, then you realize that they have done pretty well. They certainly have. I don't know that they've done better than any other place. I haven't seen the stats. I don't think that they're
last time I checked, they were right
but
there.
They're certainly not the worst.
Yeah.
They're certainly better than a lot of places who have been locked down. They have good vaccination rates for a red state. A lot of red states don't have the best vaccination rates.
Yeah.
But look, vaccination rates aren't mattering when it comes to the spread of COVID-19. You have some states, some of the most vaccinated states in the country right now are having spikes of cases. So say all that to say, Ron DeSantis has done an amazing job. We've been singing his praises here for probably a year at least. He's doing awesome.
Yeah.
And I think that he would make a fantastic president. I still hope that Donald Trump decides not to run.
Yeah.
I think he has too much baggage. I do think that any Republican, the media and the left, they're going to polarize the country. They're going to do that no matter who it is. However, Trump makes it much easier for them. Let's all just be realistic. Okay?
Oh, they need Trump. In their minds, they need him.
It happens very easily with Trump. It's not going to be nearly as easy with somebody like Ron DeSantis. And I do have to go back real quick to one thing about AOC.
Okay.
While she was in Florida, she's getting a lot of criticism and claimed that her critics just wanted to date her. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember.
And so I can't help but notice how much she apparently wants to date Ron DeSantis because she went on to criticize him. And apparently Democrats seem to want to date January 6th. Too. I don't really understand that, but that apparently is also the case.
Yeah, she's absolutely amazing. Well, in my humble opinion, though, it's not Trump's baggage that bothers me. It's the fact that, and I'm still listening, I wonder if he has learned the necessary times of restraint and the ability, sometimes
I just wouldn't count on it. Yeah.
And so that's my thing. I don't think he has baggage to me. I think the baggage he has was a baggage created out of whole cloth by an attack on his administration that occurred from day one.
You don't think, though, that he made himself an easy target? I think many, many times he just made himself an easy target with this
but again, that was because of his retorts. It's because he could not restrain his speech. I don't think those happened if not for that. And so they just took that and they created a lot of this stuff. But it's not baggage that he deserves. He was the most successful president that we ever had up to this point in time, and he did it during a time when everything and everyone was against him. And I think that to me is what he's struggling with. He literally had the economy and the nation and our foreign policy even in a better place than we've been in a long time. And not only does he not get any credit for it, but he is disparaged and put in the same category as truly bad president.
Well, he gets credit from the right people. We know what a great job he did. And there are people that will never see what great shape we were in for 4 years under Donald Trump.
But now we got contrast, though.
And that's true. Yeah. But I said, when Trump left office, somebody said to me, Trump 2024. And I said, well, I don't know about that. But it was a really good 4 years of policy from the federal government.
Yes,
it really was.
Yeah.
And there's one or two things that I could complain about as far as, the policy part of the Trump presidency. For the most part, it was really good, really good.
But see,
the communication, the PR was usually pretty bad. Yeah. But look, there was no way he was going to get good PR. It was going to be impossible for him to
Right.
Be positive on that.
But here's the thing, and again, we can relitigate this, and others are saying this is one of the reasons why they don't want Trump to run, because he will relitigate this, and we need to let the past election go. I'll only bring it up to say this. Trump, again, got more votes than any other Republican president, candidate before him.
That's good.
So whatever he did, it was liked. Including inroads into minority voters. So I just throw it out there, lest someone think that it was that Trump had any kind of thing that really turned everybody off. He actually had record of votes.
Well, and you said something I think that's very key. If Donald Trump can keep from being vindictive, I think he can be successful.
He can, but
one of his weaknesses in the past has been his apparent compelled to be vindictive and look back
very thin skin
and have enemies and all that stuff. Yeah. But you're right. If he can keep from litigating the previous election and only look forward, and he can even campaign on election
reform
policy.
Yeah.
He can do that. Yeah. But he can't do it by claiming that he was robbed last time around. He's going to have to let that go. Not even because it's not true.
Right.
He might think it's true, and it might be true in some ways. There were definitely things that were unfair that happened. However, you have to let it go, because people are not going to rally around the past. They want the future. You gotta cast a vision. You got to think about what's coming. So he can talk about future election reform and the way things ought to be, but he's gonna have to find a way to not be vindictive about what happened to him in the last election. I hope
Trump just creates a media empire and influences things from that end, because I think he can do that, and I think it's one of the few people on our side who can. So that's really what I'm hoping he'll do. And I want to see DeSantis.
Ron DeSantis,
and maybe Noam. I don't know. We'll see. I'm talking about as VP, not as vice president. Well, David, folks can hear this scintillating conversation again.
Yeah, check it out on Apple Podcasts. We'll have it up on YouTube and Facebook as well. You can search for MereCon Media on YouTube. You can search for Mere Conservatism on Facebook. And we'd love your comments.
All the time. That's David Perry, and I'm Cleve Walker for Mere Conservatism. Hey, keep the faith. It's not over with yet.